When toxic family members feel you slipping away, they rarely chase you with honesty. They come back quietly, sideways through guilt, confusion, sudden warmth, or a crisis nobody saw coming. And because it is family, you question yourself before you question the pattern. You wonder if maybe they changed, maybe you are harsh, maybe peace matters more. That doubt is exactly where they want you, soft enough to reopen the door. So let's talk about the 5 silent ways toxic family members pull you back in. Because the dangerous part is not always the shouting, the insults, or the obvious drama. Sometimes the hook is softer than that, and that is why it works. If you have ever felt pulled back after finally getting some peace, this is why. And by the end, you will hear these moves differently and answer them differently. Because once you can name the pattern, it stops feeling like fate. It starts feeling like information, and information gives you real options and real power. Maybe you know this feeling already. The phone lights up, and your chest tightens first. Not because you are cold, but because your body remembers what your mind keeps minimizing. You tell yourself, maybe this time it is normal. Maybe this time it is simple. But with toxic family, simple contact often comes with hidden strings attached. The first silent pull is sudden softness right after you create distance. They stop criticizing for a moment. They sound sweet, thoughtful, even respectful. They ask how you are sleeping. They say they miss you. They send old photos. It feels almost tender, which is exactly why people fall for it. You think maybe the relationship is finally becoming what you always begged for. But usually, this softness is not repair. It is retrieval, dressed up as love. They feel you pulling away, and their comfort disappears. So they offer temporary niceness. Not because they respect your boundary, but because they want their old access back. This is why the sweetness often vanishes the moment you relax again. The rude comment returns, the guilt returns, the pressure returns, the confusion returns. A healthy family member can miss you and still respect your pace. A toxic one turns kindness on like a faucet when control starts slipping. That is your first clue. Warmth is real only when it survives your limits. If they become kind only when losing you, that kindness is leverage. The second silent pull is crisis bait, and family uses this one constantly. Suddenly someone is sick, overwhelmed, stranded, heartbroken, confused, or deeply offended by your distance. Sometimes the crisis is real. That is what makes this one so complicated. But notice the timing. It often arrives right after you say no or step back. The parent who ignored your needs for years suddenly needs you tonight, urgently, emotionally, immediately. The sibling who never calls suddenly says the family is falling apart without you. And if you hesitate, you are labeled selfish before you even understand what happened. This is important. Compassion is not the same thing as instant compliance. You can care and still ask, what exactly happened? What is needed? Who else was called? Toxic family hates those questions because urgency is often covering entitlement and old expectations. They do not want thoughtful help. They want immediate obedience with no friction. So instead of over-explaining, try this. I need details before I commit. Or say, I cannot do that tonight, but I can revisit tomorrow. Notice what happens next. A real need can handle structure. Manipulation usually cannot. The third silent pull is guilt, dressed as family loyalty, duty, or tradition. They say family is everything, when what they really mean is your access belongs to us. They say you only get one mother, one father, one family, one chance. What they leave out is how many chances you already gave them. Guilt becomes their favorite weapon when control no longer works cleanly anymore. They stop arguing facts and start pulling emotional debts from the past. After everything we have done for you, after all those sacrifices we made. That sentence hits hard because decent people remember help and feel responsible. But guilt is not proof you are wrong. Sometimes it is proof you are trained. Trained to abandon your own comfort whenever someone louder claims pain or sacrifice. Trained to feel cruel for having a schedule, a limit, or a private life. So when they say you changed, hear the translation underneath it clearly. You stop being easy to use, easy to guilt, and easy to reach. That is not betrayal. That is growth finally becoming visible to them. One of the cleanest responses here is simple. My answer is the same. No defense, no long explanation, no emotional essay they can twist later. Because toxic family often does not use your explanation to understand you. They use it to find weak spots, argue details, and reopen the debate. The fourth silent pull is triangulation, when they do not confront you directly. They send another relative, a cousin, a sibling, a grandparent, someone softer, someone harder. Suddenly you are getting random messages about family, forgiveness, and how hurt everyone feels. Nobody mentions your actual boundary. Nobody mentions the behavior that made distance necessary. They only talk about your reaction, your absence, your tone, your so-called coldness. This is not misunderstanding. This is image control after private control starts failing. When they cannot pull you close privately, they try to pressure you socially. They want you managing the discomfort of other people so they never face your truth. This is where many people collapse because they can withstand conflict better than misrepresentation. Being painted as rude, ungrateful, dramatic, or selfish can feel unbearable when family reputation matters. But smear pressure does not mean you are wrong. It means the system felt your boundary. And here is the deeper truth. Some families protect dysfunction faster than they protect honesty. So if a relative calls fishing for details, you do not need a courtroom defense. You can say, "I am not discussing this," and then let the silence sit. Do not rescue the silence. Do not rush in with context because discomfort hit. Silence is powerful when it protects your boundary instead of punishing someone emotionally. And that nuance matters, because not every silence is manipulation at all. Sometimes distance is clean. Sometimes it is the healthiest answer available to you. The fifth silent pull is selective amnesia mixed with nostalgia. This one is brutal. They act like the past was mostly fine, and you are dwelling on small things. They bring up holidays, childhood jokes, old traditions, favorite meals, and one good memory. They use sentiment like a fog machine, hoping the emotional atmosphere erases the facts. This one hurts because some of those memories are real and you wanted them. That is why toxic family pull is so confusing. It mixes real love with real harm. They are not always monsters. Sometimes they are emotionally immature, entitled, avoidant, or deeply threatened. And that matters because strategy depends on reality, not labels, assumptions, or wishful thinking. But even emotional immaturity can still damage you if you keep excusing the pattern. Intent matters, but impact matters too, especially when the behavior never truly changes. And selective amnesia is not harmless forgetfulness when it only forgets what they did. It is a way of inviting you back without accountability, repair, or real change. They want reunion without reflection, access without apology, closeness without truth again. And if you accept that deal, the old pattern usually returns fast. The criticism returns disguised as concern. The pressure returns disguised as love. The invasion returns disguised as closeness. The disrespect returns disguised as family jokes. So what do you actually do when these silent pulls start working on you? First, stop treating every emotional signal as moral instruction for action today. Feeling guilty does not automatically mean you are guilty. Feeling anxious does not mean danger. Sometimes it means your nervous system expects punishment whenever you choose yourself. Second, watch what happens after your first boundary, not during your explanation. Healthy people may feel disappointed, but they can handle a limit without retaliation. Toxic people treat your boundary like betrayal because it blocks convenience, leverage, or control. That is the difference. You need to remember when guilt starts shaking your resolve. Third, say less than you want to say, especially with repeat offenders. The more words you use, the more material they have to rearrange against you. You do not need a perfect speech. You need a usable line. "That does not work for me" is a complete sentence. Use it. "I'm not available for that" is another one. Short, calm, finished. "We are not doing this" works when the conversation keeps circling toward disrespect. "I already answered" that works when they keep pressing, fishing, or wearing you down. And sometimes the most powerful word is still no, spoken once without decoration. Fourth, do not confuse access with love or guilt with connection again. A person can want you close for reasons that have nothing to do with care. Sometimes they want a witness, a helper, a scapegoat, a target, or emotional supply. Sometimes they simply want the old version of you back in place. The version that answered immediately, explained endlessly, forgave quickly, and kept family peace alone. But peace built on your silence is not peace. It is unpaid emotional labor. Fifth, use strategy instead of confession when the family system is unhealthy. Not every situation needs a big confrontation, especially if honesty will be weaponized. Sometimes you do better with low contact, delayed responses, shorter visits, and fewer personal details. Sometimes the strongest move is boring consistency. Same answer, same tone, same limit. No emotional spikes, no dramatic exit speech, no begging them to finally understand. Because some people do understand. They just do not agree that you should be free. That is why your calm matters so much. Calm protects clarity from their chaos. Keep your tone flat. Pause before answering. Hold eye contact briefly, then stop performing. You do not need to prove pain to deserve distance. You only need enough truth. And if you keep waiting for family to validate your boundary, you may wait forever. Some people only respect limits they believe they can enforce against you. So when you finally enforce your own, they call it selfishness, attitude, distance, pride. But that backlash does not reveal your cruelty. It reveals their loss of access. Their anger can mean lost control. Their guilt trip can mean lost convenience. Their silent treatment can mean punishment disguised as distance because your no finally landed. Their fake concern can mean information gathering, checking whether the door is opening again. And the moment they say you changed, listen carefully to the relief beneath it. You are no longer automatically available, automatically loyal, automatically explainable, automatically controllable. That shift will upset people who benefited from your confusion for years. But it would also save you years of second guessing and emotional exhaustion. The real goal is not to become hard. It is to become clear. Clear about what happened. Clear about what keeps happening. Clear about what it costs. Clear enough to stop calling manipulation love just because it comes from family. Clear enough to accept that blood can explain history, but it does not excuse harm. And clear enough to build a life that does not require constant emotional recovery. If you needed permission to stop reopening the same wound, here it is. You are not rude for protecting your peace from people who keep charging rent. You are not cruel for refusing roles that keep breaking you down. And you are not selfish for wanting relationships that do not require self-betrayal. If this hits something real for you, start small and stay consistent. Pick one sentence. Use it once this week without apologizing for needing it. And if you are done mistaking chaos for closeness, stay here with us. Because your peace is not the problem, it is the proof you are healing.